The media has completely dropped COVID. They don't even care. The apocalypse, the Koof apocalypse. Who cares? Doesn't matter anymore because now the pearl, the jewel, the crown of all media juicy nonsense riots. Now, I want to keep in mind here that this kind of stuff, the rioting, this stuff is insane. This is obvious engineering. If you look at the strategy of how to create social movements, how to create agitation, agitprop, look back to the Otpor. This is the NGO that was involved in creating social tension in Serbia many decades ago. And they created, logos. They created all this stuff that's very similar to logos that you'll see in this present situation of rioting and whatnot. If we remember, a few years ago, we had the same issue going down in areas of the Midwest. People being bussed in, astroturfing, people being brought in, trucked in from other places to act a fool. And meanwhile, how many people die of hunger every year? How many people don't ever come to be, if you know what I mean? So we are actually told what things to be upset about. That's the crazy part, is that the social engineers, the elite, they actually tell us what to be upset about. So there's multiple layers going on behind this present situation, but one thing that comes to mind is some movies. We always want to talk about movies, don't we? Jay's analysis. Think about The Purge, The Purge. Did you see The Purge? And do you notice how they got more and more divisive in terms of people groups as the series continued on? Now, the first one is, I think, the best movie of that series. The rest of them are not so great, but the first one is about this time period when, in the near future, near dystopian future, the U.S. has to shut down every year or so for one whole day of anything goes. Anything goes, and then you can exact revenge. You can pull pranks. You can snipe people from your roof. You can do whatever you want for this period. And there's no consequences. And the idea is that this is somehow like a gladiatorial catharsis, and everybody can let loose all their tensions at this one time. And whatever you get away with, you get away with. So the interesting aspect of this movie is that even at the time that it came out, it was 7, 8, 9 years ago, with Ethan Hawke. Even at that time, it would have seemed kind of outlandish to think of civil unrest in the U.S. to the scale that we see now, especially after COVID, right? So you get like a double barrel shot of COVID and then these divisive events, we'll say. But The Purge seemed to really predict this. And people have been going around playing clips from The Purge, including, I think there was even one police precinct that played this right after Koof came out, right? After Karanka. So you've got this film all about this anarchic sort of, staging, this civil unrest that's being promoted, that's allowed by the establishment. And not only did that series go in that direction with its later installments, with the last one, that had like the Hillary character, who was basically president in the film. I think the film was expecting that Hillary would win. You also get the Joker, right? Last year's Joker release, which was all about pent-up civil unrest, anger, and a kind of a nihilistic joke on society itself. The society is a joke, right? And we're all jokers, right? We got Guy Fawkes masks, right? The same stuff was going on back when V for Vendetta came out, right? So films, Hollywood, they always give you these icons, these symbols, these images, the Guy Fawkes mask, the idea of the purge, right? And in the purge, everybody's wearing these, animal masks, right? So it actually morphs into this kind of occult, sort of quasi-satanic direction. Because if you remember at the end of the first one, spoiler alert, Ethan Hawke and his family are basically being sold out by their neighbors. And there's a pretty satanic-ish component to it. It's almost like they're all involved in the same coven or something. I mean, not Ethan Hawke and his family, but the other families, right? They're all ready to like sell each other out, right? And then we realize later on this is class warfare in the later installments. And you've got, this idea that it's time to hunt people. Right? This is other movies coming out with this theme, going all the way back to, what is it? The one with Lone Survivor? The one with Rutger Hauer and Ice-T, where Ice-T is being hunted. He's taken out of the ghetto, dreads and all, and then he's being hunted out in the middle of nowhere. Surviving the game, that's it. This is an interesting theme that has been in a lot of films. Wicker Man. Right? You remember, actually, Wicker Man is about the dude being hunted. Right? This oblivious cop is brought to this pagan island. As you see here, I'm actually on the Wicker Man Island. Here, I floated out here to meet Christopher Lee. Not really. I sure as heck did not go out to meet those bee-obsessed witch bitches. If you remember the Nicolas Cage installment of Wicker Man, not the bees, right? I did do a whole analysis actually of Wicker Man in the Nick Cage. Nick Cage does his own analysis. I'll put a link to that below. Anyway, what I'm getting at here is that all the time, because the fiction outlets are part of the establishment, they're an arm of the establishment, you're going to get telegraphing and preparation for what's coming, because they want to prep people for the phases that are coming. We saw a lot of films and movies that dealt with Cufid-like scenarios, right? We covered those here, past videos. Now we're looking at scenarios more like the Purge. And people were saying, actually, back at the time of Cufid, when it was new, well, look out, get ready for the Purge type stuff. There's a great article that Sean Helton wrote about the 2016 Purge, which is, again, all about the 2016 election. Hill Dog, it's going to be Hill Dog, all this stuff. Anyway, so with that in mind, that's how we can also look in a parallel way at the NGOs and the think tanks and these groups. The Revolution Machine. There's a documentary about Revolution Inc., Revolution Incorporated. Private entities, formerly would be done by like the CIA, staging a coup. If you're going to stage a coup, what would you do? Well, you go into the country. This happened a lot in Latin America, South America. CIA would go in and they would set up, maybe centers at universities where they would prep students for injustices, this kind of stuff, get people riled up, have all the, fake-ass signs printed up in English for the TV cameras, distribute these signs out. Everybody's got these fancy signs. Walk around like you care, right? Even bring in people, just pay people to demonstrate. Just get the camera to show people demonstrating, and that gives the impression to the rest of the country, oh, we've got people everywhere demonstrating, and it might only be 20 people. It might be 50 people. Who knows, right? Then you can even have a situation like with Ukraine where an SNIPER pops off. This has happened in multiple scenarios, not just Ukraine, but there's a popping off. Maybe it's real, maybe it's staged. And then this ignites the fervor. Now, in the present situation, we saw some what looked like provocateurs. There was images of this coming out. Would not be surprised. A lot of times these kinds of events typically involve provocateurs. I'm not saying there are organic crimes and events that happen, but there are, in high-profile, media-focused events, oftentimes these kinds of provocateurs, so we have to watch for that kind of stuff. But that would also be part and parcel of operations or provocateur situations that I'm speaking of here, where you have a specific target, a specific operation being run, where people know how to agitate and how to excite and rile up the target group to not actually achieve any justice or to get anything done. I mean, what's it actually going to do to? I mean, you going to bust the windows out of CNN? I mean, CNN's got like $1 billion. They'll put new windows in. They'll put bullet glass windows in. I mean, if you burn down all of CNN, they would just build another CNN, another building. They have all the money they need. So doing this stuff doesn't do anything except agitate for what the social engineers had planned all along. So that's evident, again, not just from, I'm not just making up what happens in movies. I'm talking about what you can read about and what you can study in like documentaries like Revolution Inc. or History of Operations that dealt with this kind of stuff. Ingdahl has multiple books that deal with the history of these kinds of operations. F. William Ingdahl, you can read his books. I think he has a section on Otpor in Serbia and other examples. There was Rose Revolution, these kind of color revolution style stuff that is the model for what you see in these operations here in the domestic population. So you'll notice that a lot of the stuff that's done in the war theaters, it actually comes home and is rolled out domestically. So this is Jay Dyer from Jay's Analysis. Think about the Purge, particularly Purge Part 1. The other ones are just pure propaganda. Let's think about the implications of the pointlessness of just pure anarchic chaos. It doesn't do anything except it's worse for you. And let's think about the way that these operations go down and how they function in the big picture. If you would, hit like, share, subscribe, etc., etc. And I will be back soon with more.